Hey there everyone, I did a video recently going through the best set effects for each class. Another community suggestion, which I'm now getting around to, is what are the skillbooks all about? Which skillbooks are good and which to avoid. Now, I have not really said anything on this before. I don't know why, to be honest. I've released the experience requirements before, but not really talked about which ones are good or not. So that's what this video is going to achieve. Normally I'd split it over 3 videos, one for each class, but a lot of the skillbooks are across all the classes. They're exactly the same, namely the attack skillbooks, which there's one in each class, and the defense skillbooks. So you can skip to the particular points in this video where we go into the class specifics, but first of all I'm going to go through the stuff which is general for every class. So yeah, let's get stuck into it. Now you get the insignias, so you get these skillbooks from the advanced achievements. First of all, we get to level 60, then you can buy the insignia from the shop, and then when you equip that, you do the daily achievements to get the score, and ultimately get these skillbooks. You also get the save stones that you need to evolve these skillbooks from advanced achievements. Generally, they're not really an issue because the main issue is the experience which these require. So these are consumables that you equip, or you can just use them from here, but basically you equip them to the hotbar and then you use them, and they have a 20-second cooldown. The attack and defend have a 10-second cooldown, and then they're just reusable, so you can use them as many times as you want. However, they level up like jewels, so you have to go take them to Savra and put jewels into them, and they take a lot of experience to level up. So that's what we're going to look at first of all. This is a little table I've put together for you, and you can see through the qualities from common all the way to fabled, the experience it requires for each of those qualities broken down, and then a running total. So this, if you look at this one here, this is common and fine to get to there. This includes the superior. And finally, we've got percentages of total stats, but we're going to talk about that in a second. So to get from level 1 to maximum, it takes 57 million experience, which is a lot. To put that in perspective, the standard kind of jewels which we look at, they are 18,750 for the first level, and then these take 15 million in total. So that's what we see on standard jewels. You see this on a few of the gold fine jewels and that kind of stuff. However, the good jewels, typically they start on 37,500 experience, and then these take 30 million in total to level up. Now these are the star jewels from the advanced achievements with max mana, as well as like the tristones and spheres with 30% gold find that you get from the advanced achievements. These take 30 million to level up, and then some of the stronger jewels will take 3 times the normal, and they'll take 45 million in total. An example of these is the fire tristones from the shop, the 24% fire tristones there. So taking a look at 57 million compared to those, well, the good ones generally 30 million, and a lot of the time we will work on 30 million jewels. So it's roughly equivalent to getting 2 jewels to maximum. So if you want to just kind of compare it that way, it's probably the simplest way to compare it. However, we don't necessarily have to get these to maximum, and that's where I want you to look at this final column, the percentage of total stats. So this 50% is actually getting it to artifact level 1. I'm saying the 50% because then you look at this as the total experience, that's to get to legendary level 5, and then the evolving it to artifact, it takes the sage stones, and like I said, they're not a problem. So once you put this much experience into it, you can effectively get it to 50% of the total stats. Now looking at just that, this line here, this is about 1/7 of the total experience. However, you can have half the stat which you get. Now, when I say half the stat, if we look at, say, the attack book here, it gives you 50% extra damage for the next second. So it would give you 25% at artifact level 1 for only putting this much experience into it. That's really not too bad. And for some skillbooks, that may be something you want to consider, is just take them up to artifact level 1, or maybe to relic level 1, maybe to mythic level 1 or fable level 1 for a cheaper skillbook that's going to give you most of it, but just you didn't have to put anywhere near as much experience into it. So that's maybe something to consider in the short term, before then the long term you put it all the way to max. So yeah, that's the experience requirements and the stats which you gain from them. Also, something which I should have mentioned right at the beginning is these cost 100 mana each to use. That's the same across all the skillbooks, both the attack and defend and the unique ones. They cost 100 mana, which sounds like a lot. However, as you go through the advanced achievements, you get these 208 mana star jewels. There are 9 we can get in total. There's also the 104 mana, but the 208 mana are the real ones for getting max mana up. So it's quite easy to get over 2,000 mana from those 9, and other places. You can see my build right here has 2,600. And yeah, it's really not too bad once you have high mana to use these skill books. So when you get experience, when you've been around in the game long enough, the mana isn't an issue. So that's all that stuff there. So we're going to jump into talking about the attack and defend skill books. So each class has 2 advanced classes. One which is a kind of attack version and one which is a kind of defend version. And so they have these attack and defend on those, each one of those. You can never be using both of these skill books because you have to have the insignia equipped. So you've either got to pick the attack or defend. These skill books can only be used in PvP. I'm talking about the attack and defend. The unique ones can be used anywhere. And so for that, we're just thinking about PvP, whether they're useful there. So talking about the attack first, this gives you a 50% boost to your attack for the next second. There are 2 things to note about this, which are maybe not so obvious when you first look at it. So if we look at my damage stat here, the 79,000, that is not my base attack, my base damage. I've actually got plus 20% from this passive, which, everyone will have this. So you're actually at 1.2 times. So when you add the 50%, it's actually not 1.5 times damage. It's more like, I think, something like 42% extra. So it's 1.42 times. That's what you're actually adding to your overall damage. So bear that in mind. Also with damage pots, this would normally, be overall percentage less. However, in PvP, we can't use damage pots, so here that is not something to consider. The other interesting thing is this is all damage in the next second. So any damage over time which you've stacked up that's going, hitting them frequently during that 1 second window, it will do extra damage with that damage over time hit. It's not just whatever skill you use in that 1 second is going to deal extra damage. So also that means if you use a damage over time skill in that 1 second, it will maybe do a bigger hit on the first hit, but it won't on future hits because those will be out of that 1 second window. This is really important because the attack skill books, what they really do is not just increase the damage of one skill, it's packing a lot of punch into that 1 second window. And to make the most of it, I'm now going to go through each class how to make the most of it. So for Wizard, we have a lot of damage over time. We have the Arcane Beam here, we have the Mana Storm, we have the Arcane Breath, specifically one which doesn't have the animation lock, so you can stack up more things. And then also Skurins for Protection Bubble, Fiery Aura and Curse Protection right now. They can stack up a lot of damage over time if someone's attacking you. And so you can stack up those 4 skills, get loads of damage time on the person, on the opponent, and then use Archmage for the auto crit, as well as if you've got the Master Vice, this boosts your water damage for the next 15 seconds as well. So you can stack up all that, put Archmage on, use the skill book, and then use Mana Bolts, which is our big hit in an instant. Lots of damage at one go, and this is a really strong case for putting it to 99 because you want to get that big hit in one go to try and kill someone off. So you disable them, you stack up all this damage over time, you disable them, you then use your Archmage, maybe used it before, then you use the skill book and hit them with the Mana Bolts. And altogether that can do tons of damage in that 1 second and otherwise hit them and finish them off when they're disabled. So that's it for Wizard. And then if we look at, now it's not going to let me click. Hold on a second. I'm recording, so I messed up my clicking. Okay, so for Archer, looking at the skills for Archer, there's a little bit less damage over time, but Archers definitely do it. So with the basic attack build, you're attacking with Sniper and Pierce. Sniper doing a bit of damage increase, but both of these do a little bit of damage over time. And then the Barbed Arrows, this puts on tons of damage over time, using that with the Chilling Arrow Skurin or the Scorching Arrow Skurin. So between those 3, you're going to be doing, reasonable amount of damage over time, just attacking them. However, your window when you're going to be doing a lot is when you use Mark of Death. So Mark of Death will make you do extra damage for those 10 seconds. Using Mark of Ignition or another one which adds extra damage onto each hit is going to be even better for damage. So when you use that, then for the next 10 seconds, anytime in that, you can probably use the attack skillbook to do extra damage for 1 second, and then in that 1 second, use volley. Now this is again another reason for a big argument to make this 99, so it does one massive hit during that time. I say one massive, it does 3 hits, but basically to make it that much more powerful for that time when you've got the damage boost, that's a really good case for it. So that's how you achieve it on Archer, trying to get the most of the attack book. Then looking at Knight, got less damage over time here, and it's more kind of down to certain skills, namely Enrage, which is going to increase your damage output by 100%. Again, this is a damage buff, so it's increasing from 1.2 times to 2.2 times on your damage, and then the attack skill book giving you 50%, 2.2 times to 2.7 times. It doesn't stack up in quite the way you want it to, not as effectively as the other classes, but it definitely does, it all adds up to make you do a really big hit in that 1 second. Demon's Rage also giving you the auto crit is very good. And then additionally, you maybe want to use Lord of Winter to boost your water. Specifically water, because right now the best one hit is Flowing Blades, doing 420% water. Again, putting this skill to 99 on top of the the water, maybe you do water buff, and then you have this Enrage increasing your damage output. Use the skill book, use Maim, you could do massive hit of damage in that time. Now there is a little bit of damage over time on Knight. You can maybe have Dancing Toxic or other skill runes on Hurl, do a bit of damage over time. Volcanic Eruption on Rumble does a bit of damage over time. You could have Whirl set up beforehand, that does good damage kind of over time, because it does multiple hits after you use it, similar to the Arcane Breath on Wizard. So yeah, you can use a couple of things for damage over time, but mainly it's the Enrage, Lord of Winter if you're using water, and then hit with Maim. Additionally, you have got Sunder, which is kind of like a second Maim. Not necessarily as powerful right now because it hasn't got powerful skill runes, but either one of the two basically gets the job done, does a massive hit. So that's how you use attack skill books. And are they any good? Yes, definitely. So at this point in time in PvP, everyone is tanking a lot. It's really hard to kill each other. So the attack skill book is coming out as being very, very useful for doing that hit of damage. It's pretty much the same on every class, that you want to be hitting the opponents a bit, get their health going down, and then you disable them. And maybe in that hitting time you stack up a lot of damage over time. Then you disable them and then use the attack skill book. You do the massive hit and you try and finish them off while they're disabled. It's generally the most effective tactic. I'm going to go into it more when I make my PvP videos. But basically that's what you want to do with the attack skill book, and it is very effective for that. That's basically everything I want to say about the attack skill book. There's quite a bit to it, but it's a strong skill book that a lot of people should use. So yeah, let's go to the defend skill book. So the defend is the same for all classes. It's very similar to the attack skill book, lasts just 1 second, has a 10-second cooldown. And what it does very simply is makes you invincible for 1 second. You get 100% damage reduction for that 1 second. And in terms of practical use, it's kind of hard to really see anything other than just spamming it, because if this was, say, in PvE, then the boss uses a one-shot attack, you could use this just before to survive that one-shot attack, but this isn't. This is just for PvP. So PvP, you don't really know when people are going to use their big hits, and as I was literally just describing a very short time ago, people want to disable and then do their big hits to finish someone off, so you can't really use this knowing that they're about to do their big hits, because you're probably disabled, in which case you can't use this skill book. So generally I'd just say you spam it when you're in combat, and it's just going to help you tank a little bit better, because occasionally you're going to take no damage. I say occasionally, it's 10% of the time. It's good for sure, but I would say in terms of use, it's nowhere near as good as the attack skill book. And we'll see this as we go through the classes more specifically. But you typically want to pick the attack advanced class rather than the defend advanced class for these attack skill books. They're very good. So anyway, that's it for the attack and defend. We're now going to go into class specific stuff, starting off with Wizard. So Wizard has Invoke and Dark Mage, Lost Ritual. So both of these are like or the other ones which are going to go through, actually I say that, this actually has 10-second cooldown. Didn't notice that before. So what they normally do is they have 20 seconds cooldown and they give you some buff for 5 seconds. That's how they pretty much all work. So the Alchemist one here, the Invoke, increasing your cooldown reduction by 10% for the next 5 seconds. This is a little bit complicated. Cooldown reduction is not a stat anywhere on the stats page. It's just something that's hidden. And where we get it from, where most people will get it from, there are a few niche cases, but basically you're going to have 15% from the passive here, and then you have an additional 12.5% from promotion. I believe this is when you get to 100 promotion, you have 12.5%. So that's 27.5% in total. And then in the guild skills, if you're in a high level guild, then you can get up to 5%. Realistically, if I can find this, it's just down here, up to 5%. Realistically, you can get up to maybe 2% or so. So you're looking at roughly towards 30% cooldown reduction in total. Now, how much does that actually reduce by? It's not 30%. There's actually diminishing returns on this. So I've got a guide on the forum, KD's Stats Explained, and you can see this little graph here of the diminishing returns. It curves away, and this is kind of just, yeah, how it works. We're going to look at the table here. There's a formula, if you want to read the formula, CR meaning your cooldown reduction stat. That's the formula for working the actual reduction. But you can see it simply in the table here. So we said it's between 25 and 30%, but basically you're close to that 30% cooldown reduction, where you have 23% actual reduction to your skills. And adding 10 does not add 10% reduction. It actually adds this 23 up to the 28.5. It's roughly 5% reduction that you're actually seeing. So take an example of the skill of I was going to say Spirit Armor. It's Implied Flame Armor. Take an example of this one. It's got 30 seconds cooldown. If I were to use this, it would be doing, I think it's like roughly 24 seconds right now. But with the skill book active, it would take 1.5 seconds off that, the roughly 5%. So trying to loop this of the 20 seconds duration, normally there's a 4-second window, but if I use the skill book, then it's going to become a 2.5-second window. That's the kind of place where it comes into play and is really useful. I just want to quickly mention that cooldown reduction potions, they give 100% and 110% to your cooldown reduction stat. Now, because of the diminishing returns, what this means for this skill book is it's less effective if you have a cooldown potion active. It gives more like 2 or 3% as opposed to the 5% reduction. But anyway, so where this comes into play and where this is useful is pretty much the Flame Armor skill, the Frost Armor skill. In general, it's going to help, obviously, just reducing the cooldowns. I mean, something like Archmage, which is a very powerful skill, has 50-second cooldown. Any kind of reduction to that is going to be handy. But what I found it most effective for is this Frost Armor. So for farming, it's really useful to loop it in between. We're going to show these two skills now. If I use them both quickly, it's 40 second and 24 seconds. That's what we have right now. Then I'm going to use them with the skill book when they come off cooldown. So yes, looping this, there's a 4-second window where you can't have flame armor on, which is very annoying in farming. And then otherwise, when you're in PvP and just PvE in general, this is a really good defense buff, giving you that armor buff. And in this window, you are very weak. You can be killed off really easily. So you want to cut down on that window. And that's where this cooldown reduction can help. The 20 seconds cooldown on this skill book means that you can line it up very nicely with the 20 seconds duration of the armor buff to try and cut down on that. So we'll use the skill book now and then use both the skills. You can see 37 seconds and 22 seconds roughly on the armor skill. Cut off a few seconds off them and it's pretty handy. But overall, I would say the skill book, complications aside and everything, it's not that amazing. It's a nice little buff, but it's not really going to be that useful. It's just for kind of cutting this window where you can't have the armor buff on down a little bit. That's pretty much the only place it can be used. Now, the other one for Dark Mage, this is very weird. It gives you, it takes away your health to replenish your mana. Now, I talked earlier on about getting a mana high and getting it over 2,000. We have 2,600 here, and 150 mana is nothing. That's pathetic. we've got consumables, we've got potions and that kind of stuff to replenish mana. I think what they were thinking about was for PvP, because you can't use the normal potions in there. However, they've gone and given us festival potions to replenish mana, and there's just other stuff to replenish your mana, so it's not very useful. In fact, it doesn't cost 10% of your health, it costs 15%. I don't know why it says 10%, but from my testing it's definitely 15. So this, I just can't really see any use for it. I don't recommend using it or leveling it up. Just give it a pass. And because I said previously in this video, the attack skillbook is generally better than the defense skillbook, you really want to go with Arcanist here and pick these two skillbooks. Both of them reasonably useful, the attack skillbook especially. And in terms of the skills on the class, it means you've got to go with the Arcanist skills rather than the Dark Mage skills. Ultimately, I'd say the skills matter more. If the Dark Mage skills, if they add like screw-ins which make them really strong and stuff, that probably matters more than using these skillbooks. But anyway, that's all for you to consider. So moving on from Wizard onto Archer. Archer has some very powerful skillbooks. So we talked about the attack and defend earlier on, and archers, they want to do high damage. They can't capitalize on the attack skillbook quite as well as the other two classes, but what they have instead, on top of that, is the focus skillbook. So if you go with sniper, then you have this, and this is very, very powerful. Just before we go into it, I want to mention though, sniper is very good on the archer class, mainly for the reason first aid. This skill is very good for keeping you alive in PvE and PvP. Lots of people love this skill, they want to use this skill, so they want to pick sniper. And that is excellent because it lines up with having the attack skillbook and also this focus skillbook. So everything seems to line up on archer to push you towards that. That said, if they bring out screw-ins later on that make the hunter skills very good, then that may be something worth considering. But sniper seems like the obvious choice right now on archer, at least. So this focus skillbook, increasing your attack speed by 100%, may not be so obvious when you first look at this, but this is really, really powerful. Our attack rating is like ridiculous. We have like 4,900, and if you attack in town, I mean, you can't see this because my frame rate for this recording is 10. But if you attack things in town, you attack at ridiculous speed, arrows just come flying out like crazy. However, when we're in maps, our attack speed is limited to 300%, like the 4 times the base attack speed. I'm going to return to my guide here, the KD Stats Explained. I have a section on attack speed, and I say the base attack speed is actually 1.5 attacks per second. And getting that 300%, if we're, say, 300 attack rating over the resistance, then you have the 6 attacks per second as the fastest attack speed. So 300% extra, this is then adding an extra 100% on top of that. It's adding another attack and a half per second, and basically increasing your attack speed by an extra 25%, 1.25 times, which is really considerable considering that archers are all about basic attacks for their damage. You're pretty much increasing your damage output by 1.25 times when you have this active, and it's active a quarter of the time too, because the 5-second duration, 20-second cooldown, you can have this on quite a lot and really use it to take down enemies. So yeah, that's obviously great as it stands, but where this comes even better is that in guild raids and in PvP, our attack speed is capped even further, so it's even slower. PvP, it's technically not capped, but the way that we scale against opponents means that we aren't really at the cap, we're just near the cap. So maybe your attack speed is like 4.5 attacks per second or that kind of thing. So it's going to be boosting your attack speed by more than 25%. It's going to be more like 33% or that kind of thing. So it's a really considerable damage damage buff. And, stack this up with the attack skill book too, you can make your archer do a lot more damage than you would without these skill books. So looks great on archer. Definitely 2 great skill books here to be investing in. On the defense side, we've also got the defense skill book, which is it's reasonable but nothing that special. And then for hunter, we've got the increased move speed by 30% for the next 5 seconds. 20-second cooldown again. You can have it on a quarter of the time. This sounds like it's just for farming. It's actually very good in combat. Move speed in general is going to help a lot. What people are generally running around with is 40% move speed. So you're going from 1.4 times running speed to 1.7 times. It's very nice and helps you in combat, but probably not as good as the attack buff from the Focus skillbook. But if you're going with Hunter, this is a nice skillbook to have for all kinds of combat, and certainly when you're farming, you don't need anything to do with Sniper, any of the skills or skillbooks there, so this will help your farming a lot. It'll really help you get through maps faster and just farm faster. So that's the main use. And then, yeah, otherwise it's just if you're going with Hunter, this is a good skillbook to have for combat too. That's pretty much it for Archer. I'm just going to show you the Hunter skillbook running around faster. This is it with it being on. You can see there's a little light on me and I'm running faster, and then now I'm running a little bit slower. It's definitely noticeable if you're playing. It may not be so noticeable in the video, but if you're playing with it, you'd really notice the move speed buff. So for Knight, we have two skillbooks which are not quite as exciting as Archer, but they are still good. So for Barbarian, we've got the lifesteal buff of 200%. The way lifesteal works is it's off your weapon damage. So if you look at my weapon damage here is 3,600. Ignore the damage buff in the extra stats. It's that base 3,600. So 200% of that is doubling it to roughly 7,000. And then if we look at my health here, it's like 1.1 million. Assuming I'm doing the maximum attack speed, so 6 attacks per second, 6 times 7, 42,000. 42,000 is roughly 4% of the 1.1 million health. So if I was there doing basic attacks constantly, I'd be healing by about 4% per second. That's nice for sure, and on top of any other lifesteal, anything like any other healing effects, it's going to heal you up nicely. But the thing is, Knights aren't really doing basic attacks that much. Personally, the way I think is the best way to play Knight is using skills, and so having 200% lifesteal isn't going to be as good as, healing you by 4% per second. There's other ways to heal. Knights already tank very nicely and stuff. I don't think this is that important. It's just a nice little buff on top of other things if you want it. That's basically it in a nutshell. Then looking at the Royal Guard one, this is again 5-second duration, 20-second cooldown, and it gives you 100% armor for the next 5 seconds. This is something which often gets overlooked by more experienced Knights, because our base armor is actually increased by 105%. We have 100% from the passive here, and then we have 5% from the guild bonus up at the top. So we're running around with 205% generally, and then we also have the skill spikes, which if you get it to 99, then it gives you 300% armor boost. So you're running around with 505%. This is lower in PvP, it's 405% there. It gives you 200% boost. But yeah, basically people overlook armor buffs for that reason, because they think, well, I've already got these other armor buffs, it's not going to add that much on top of it. However, it's actually pretty strong, because if we're just talking about PvP here, and you've got the 405%, you're 4 times armor, you go to 5 times armor with this, it's roughly equivalent to a 25% damage reduction. Outside of PvP, it's roughly equivalent to a 20% damage reduction. That's really quite considerable, especially you can have this on for 5-second duration. You can spam this frequently when you're in combat, and it's going to help you survive for sure. It's a nice little thing to stack up on top of other things, and if you're not going for the attack skillbook here and the lifesteal to help you out a little bit, then this is a good way to help you survive. The defense skillbook similarly is like, it's just one of those little things that helps you survive, and so stacking this up with all the defense buffs, you're going to survive better for sure with these two skillbooks as opposed to just using the skills on the class. So yeah, it's a reasonable skillbook. This one I'd say is stronger than the lifesteal one. However, you've got the attack skillbook that's better than the defense skillbook. So, it's up to you what you want, more defense or more attack. Both kind of work out well. And yeah, that's it for that. I haven't gone through any of the advanced skills in these, and obviously those come into play quite a lot in terms of picking which advanced class you want. But the skillbooks is what we're talking about here, and they're pretty strong. I mean, I've mostly ignored them with time, and it wasn't kind of because I thought they were weak. It's just because they take so much to level that I put it off as I had other things to level up. But certainly if you've got if you haven't got other things to level up, or you've been around long enough that you want to boost, mainly in PvP, then these skillbooks are a great way to do that. The attack skillbooks are great for taking people out, finishing them off a lot better with those big hits. And then some of the other skill books really help in other places, archers especially with the sniper skill book. And then, you've got the sprint skill book for farming too. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's informed you in everything to do with skill books. If you have any other questions, do leave them in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them there. I don't think I've missed anything, but maybe I have. So yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the video soon.